So hello and welcome to part 2 in the video of Terminator Reincarnate. So I've had some requests from people to do some video of this car to kind of go over the options and things that were done to it. So obviously we've got our Ford 4.6 32 valve, commonly referred to in the Ford world as the Terminator motor, out of the 04 Mustang Cobra. This engine is all stock internally. We've dressed up the exterior obviously and modified a few things so that it works in this configuration. This side is a custom fabricated header to fit inside of the frame rail. We've obviously relocated the alternator, modified the front bracket on the engine. Also mentioned in the ad, the power steering. Currently the car is manual steering, but I've went ahead and done some pre-work to convert it over to power steering. So we've got the power steering pump is mounted. I've got the belt off of it right now, obviously, because it's not hooked up to anything. Fabricated a reservoir for the power steering fluid. That's mounted, ready to go. Pretty much all that lacks on that is the power steering rack. To order that from Heights, it'd fit right in there, just like this one does. Finish up the plumbing and you'll have a power steering on this car. And it steers pretty easily as it is, but power steering is always nice. So of course this side here, we've got the header on this side made by Sanderson. They're kind of a universal fit street rod header that Sanderson made for the 4.6, and this side actually fit in here really well. Had to modify it just ever so slightly. Clears the steering shaft. Fit in there really good. The other side was another story though, but that's why we had to custom fabricate this one. And also the starter back there is also a high performance starter. It has more of a universal mounting method that allows you to rotate the starter up or down to give you a little more clearance. It was pretty tight between the starter and the frame rail. We did have to put in a little bit of a notch there just to make sure it doesn't burn the paint off later. So we've got a custom fabricated intake manifold for this. It's kind of an interesting setup. Inside the bug catcher is the air cleaners mounted inside of there. And underneath our custom intake is this nice polished Whipple supercharger. A nice replacement to the factory Eaton that used to sit on top of this engine. Kind of the reason for this custom intake is the fact that on Mustangs, if you know the car, you know that the intake comes around the left side and kind of rolls out over top of the engine and into the corner of the fender area. That's not going to work on this car, so we had to get creative and come up with this. Custom modified radiator to accommodate these AN fittings. Thermostat housing. Got an overflow tank is mounted back behind the grill there. And that's a Drake reproduction 33 grill. Of course up front we've got our Heights independent front suspension. All chromed, polished, Wilwood brakes. So coming around the side here, of course we got the Mickey Thompsons in the back. So these Mickey Thompsons are 31 1650 15 LT. So they're a pretty wide tire, obviously. They look pretty cool. And then the real is the polished and chromed Heights independent rear suspension. It makes this car drive and ride really nice. So also mentioned in the ad, while we had the donor car, I robbed the factory keyless entry. And so I've got the trunk pop, which will open up the trunk. Of course, opening the trunk requires two hands. I could probably use another spring on it, but back here we've got fuel tank mounted in here, easy access to the filter. This trunk has been lined with, I guess it's got plywood back there and then covered with steel to finish it out. It just needs to be carpeted and finished off. Also on the factory key fob is how the doors open, because it's got shaved handles and shaved hinges. So on the unlock button, once opens the driver's door, twice opens the passenger door. So don't beat us up too bad. The prior owners did the work inside these doors. I haven't had a chance to get in here and redo this work. It's pretty, honestly, I call it ugly. They welded all this square steel in here to frame out the door. When we first got this car, it had a really ugly interior out of an old Buick. We've ripped all of that out and redone it. Got a original 1934 steel dash, mostly stock. I filled the window crank hole and we modified it a little bit to mount the radio in there. We got a I Did It chrome column with the chrome steering wheel billet. Of course, the factory Cobra shift knobs in here, down to the T56 transmission underneath. Again, out of the Cobra. So, power windows, both sides. The switches are wired up and just kind of sitting in here. So, you can watch the windows go up and down. These switches have little lights in them, so when the headlights come on, the lights work. So we've got all odometer gauges in here. Horn. Got a Ooga horn underneath. Gives it that nostalgia sound. It's fun when you're in parades and stuff to blow that horn. People love it. Rear view mirror. Got the dome light. That's part of the Dakota Digital setup. The dome light has an auto fade. Shuts itself on and off just like a new car. Same with the headlights. It's all automatic control through that Dakota Digital system. So, let's see. Back here I've got the fire extinguisher mounted. I've got the battery custom billet battery box for the Optima battery. This seat's out of a, I think, a mid-90s Dodge Caravan. It's the second row seat. They fit really nice in these cars because they're just the right width. Fits in there really good. Okay, now that we've covered the exterior of the car and the interior of the car and kind of give it a once over out here, and let's go ahead and take this baby out on the road. I'll take you for a quick ride in it so you can see how she runs.